most common misconception about traffic fraud is that it's just an exchange problem or it's just a network problem. And the reality is that fraudulent inventory and impressions exist everywhere. If you're a publisher and you're acquiring traffic, it's likely that some of that traffic is fraudulent. Even if you don't acquire any traffic, the bots may still visit your site and generate fraudulent impressions. And finally, even if you're perfectly clean, your clean inventory is competing against that fraudulent inventory, and that's not a fair fight.
I think one mistake that buyers are doing in the industry is they're putting too much reliance on letting the exchange do their inventory quality and their fraud control for them. So they onboard a bunch of exchanges and sellers, hope that everything works, and not monitoring all of the requests that are coming in, not continuing to evaluate, vet, and reevaluate all of their inventory.
The most common misconception about traffic fraud in the internet industry is that it's someone else's problem. People aren't thinking about this as something that they need to solve, being either a technology provider, a publisher, an advertiser. There are things that everyone in the ecosystem can do to help this. If you're a publisher, looking at from whom you're buying traffic, making sure that that traffic is real, looking at how traffic's coming to your site and seeing if there's any way that you can block fraudulent traffic from reaching you. If you're an advertiser, trying to understand, are you attributing spend to fraudulent traffic? Are you looking at things that are bad clicks, bad conversions, and spending more on those sites when you should actually be spending less? And in the technology realm, how can you develop the technology to identify where is bad traffic, find those sources, remove it from the ecosystem?
Traffic fraud, the biggest misconception is it only impacts one or two parts of the ecosystem. It impacts every single part of the supply chain.
Most common misconception about fraud is that many of the people are doing it deliberately, which is not the case. It's a small fraction of the people that use the internet, primarily criminals, and they're very sophisticated. They know how to create bots that can imitate and click on ads like no human ever has. And they are very, very sophisticated in how they extract money out of the marketplace. So it's our job to all become policemen, police women, and find these criminals and shut them off and keep them from ruining a system that is destined for great success.
Traffic fraud is a massive problem right now, but I think the biggest problem is education. What are the real numbers around traffic fraud? How big is it? How do we solve for it? Where does it start? And I think we're working with our organization and our clients to try to figure that out.
The most common misconception about traffic fraud, I'd have to say there are actually two common misconceptions. Number one, that it's as big as it is, because it's probably not as big as it's being touted today. We don't have really great ways that are validated to measure it, but my bet is, because I've seen articles saying it's 70% of traffic and all these different things, a lot of hyperbole. Basically, I think the problem is a little bit smaller than that. Is it a real problem? Yes. Is it a problem we have to deal with? Yes. So that's one misconception. Another misconception on the other side is that you can completely do away with it. It's never going to happen that the transaction environment is completely free of fraud. The best that you can hope for is to manage that well, reduce the amount of fraud that you're subjected to in non-human traffic down to a de minimis level, maybe less than 5% of everything that you're dealing with. That's probably the best you can hope for in the environment. So those are two misconceptions that we deal with.